WeatherScope is sponsored by Campbell's.
This is WeatherScope.
It's a wind-blown morning on Montauk Point, New York. We've had some wind gusts over 35 miles an hour. And precipitation, too, is trying to enter the area with some reports of sleet in Newark, New Jersey. It's the northern edge of a storm system that dumps snow and heavy rain on the mid-Atlantic states. Good morning and welcome to this edition of WeatherScope. I'm Cheryl Lemke. Now, thick snow in the Appalachians, but heavy rain and high winds along the Atlantic coast. It's all the product of the same storm system, and that storm is on the move to the north. For the latest, including a live report, let's go to Bruce Edwards in the Forecast Center. Good morning, Bruce.
Good morning, Cheryl, and good morning, everyone. Indeed, we've had a humdinger of a storm system that cranked up along the Carolina coast. It brought in a lot of heavy rain to the eastern two-thirds of the Carolinas, but it's the western third that really got hammered with the heavy snow, and it's not over yet. Although the snow is tapered off in North Carolina, still in West Virginia and Virginia, it is a very significant problem. But things are improving along the coast of North Carolina at the present time. Here you can see a satellite radar enhancement showing the moisture moving steadily up the coast right now. It is continuing to work its way on towards the northeast. We'll take a detailed radar look at that in just a couple moments. But right now, standing by on the dunes at Nags Head, North Carolina. It's the Weather Channel's Mike Seidel, and we'll be visiting with him in just a moment. But I want to show you some video. We mentioned the snowfall. That's what we're seeing. Polk County, North Carolina. Whew. Look at this stuff coming down. I mean, this is what it looked like. A system dumped between 1 and 2 feet of snow in parts of western North Carolina, creating hundreds of accidents, stranding motorists. Police have been pulling stranded motorists back into safety all night long. Parts of I-40 westbound closed through Polk County. Asheville police say I-40 closed from Asheville to the Tennessee state line. And schools and businesses remain closed across North Carolina and western North Carolina in many areas. Power lines are down, and there is a threat of more power lines being dropped down because of heavy snow on the branches. And even though the snow is not coming down very heavily right now, the winds are going to kick up. That could knock some branches into power lines and thus more power outages. So it's a real messy situation that'll take a while to clean up. But as I alluded to earlier, things have now the worm is turned, so to speak, on Nags Head, North Carolina. Mike Seidel reports a very pleasant morning this morning. Right, Mike?
Not too bad, Bruce. Much like yesterday morning when it was quiet, but this morning the winds, instead of blowing onshore, are blowing offshore, west and northwest. They'll be picking up this afternoon. That could cause some problems over on the sound sides as the water gets piled up as the wind comes from west to east. Now, last night we were getting that wind from east to west off the Atlantic. Heavy rainfall, too. We were getting those tropical downpours, drenching rains, and high winds. We estimated gusts over at the Nags Head Pier about 45 miles an hour, and that kicked up the surf. Some of the local residents up around Kill Devil Hills did some sandbagging just to be on the safe side, but as far as we know, no problems, just your basic winter coastal storm, which the Outer Bank residents, about 13,000 of them this time of the year, are used to. Now, back out this morning, you can see the Atlantic is still looking kind of angry. A lot of surf. Still breaking 4, 5, maybe 6 feet out there in the distance. And with this offshore wind, that sets up the situation, which is great for surfing. So if you're one of those surfers who like to don the wetsuit in the winter and come down to the Outer Banks or come up to the Outer Banks, it looks like a pretty good day. As far as the weather goes, much better, Bruce. The rain is out of here. The winds that will be increasing through the afternoon, again blowing west to east offshore. So we don't expect any problems. High tide coming up in the next half an hour. And the water has come up to the dune line, but here at Nags Head, Bruce, we have a nice elevated dune line, and that really protects the hotels and rental properties, which will be put to good use as the weather warms up in the next couple of months. So all around, a much better situation here, obviously, than in the western North Carolina mountains.
That is indeed the case. Okay, thanks very much. Mike Seidel, live from Nags Head, North Carolina. It'll be a little breezy there today, but again, the worst is over for that region of the country. But not so. A little farther up the coast as you get into the Delmarva Peninsula and Chesapeake Bay. You've got the low, of course, right here is the low. And then we've got our high up here. And they're combining to bring stiff east to northeasterly winds in off the ocean and plenty of moisture. Now, as you get into the spine of the mountains, that's where we're seeing the snow. But it's a very fine line. There's a little bit of freezing rain and drizzle with it initially, but we're talking mainly rain and snow. As you can see, temperatures, even at Elkins, West Virginia, 33 degrees here right now, but it is still snowing moderately at Elkins. Pittsburgh's at 34. rain showers, 35 in Philly, rain, D.C. rain. It's when you get right up in parts of eastern North Carolina, even on up towards White Plains, New York, you're getting a little freezing drizzle to start with. Again, it could be mixed with a little sleet here in the northern fringes as the moisture does make its way down to the surface. A little snow and ice mix, but it shouldn't cause that much of a problem. However, it's again in eastern parts here of Pennsylvania is where we're catching a little bit of ice, but you can see at the onshore flow, significant amounts of moisture here. The commute is really going to be snarled from Philly to Baltimore to Washington this morning. The Jersey Turnpike, Atlantic City, moderate to heavy rainfall here this morning. Here's a little closer look. You can see around Dover, Delaware, here around Atlantic City, some heavy weather just pounding in off the Atlantic Ocean, and so it's going to be very soggy. The rains will accumulate and traffic will be treacherous, but you get around Allentown, and again, up towards White Plains here, we're talking about some freezing rain to start out with, so again, be very, very cautious here. Meanwhile, as you get around Lynchburg, Virginia, which is right about here, they've got a little bit of light snow falling, but it's plain old rain around